What's going on, Commonwealth? And welcome back to another great episode of the Bluegrass Soccer Cast, your home for all things soccer, right here in the beautiful Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'm, of course, your host, Jimmy. That's Mr. John. John, how are we doing today, friend?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. I was literally wheeling in here on two wheels to make sure that I made it on time for the show. But hey, we're here. We made it. And of course, we've got a great show for you. John, I'm going to keep with our tradition of going for that random icebreaker question to start. Let's get it. Would you let aliens beam you up if they came to Earth? So willingly go with the aliens.
I mean, that really depends.
It does.
What type of aliens are we talking about?
Are we talking the little green men of Kelly, Kelly, Kentucky? That is.
What?
You don't know that story? Google it.
I don't believe any little green men story.
The little green men of Kelly, Kentucky. Green, like my drink here. There was this story. I heard about it in high school. These people were visited some small town in Kentucky by some aliens. So while you're googling it, I'm going to say a hard no. No, thank you. I do not wish to be taken by any little aliens, any little green men, big monsters with claws and weapons. Nope, I'm good. John is reading very intently all about it now. Screw the rest of the podcast. John is going to be learning about the little green men from Kelly.
No, listen. Possibility of aliens is possible.
Right.
The factor of what has came out of any sort is not. Like what Mexico released.
Oh, that was so fake.
People did X-ray scans, and in the hands, there's bones that are on the same hand, right?
Uh-huh.
Like one hand, the bones are like flipped in it. So it's like whoever put it together didn't even think to make sure that all the bones and like the hands were like all facing the same way.
Come on now. Got to make sure all the phalanges are going in the right direction. Come on now.
Like I understand aliens could like have different ways about us, but I doubt that's like their bone structure is going to be flipped from one hand to another just naturally.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Speaking of aliens, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, Lou City heading to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Not far from area 51, 41, 91. I don't remember.
Whatever. 51.
51.
And
Roswell.
I'm not sure. I think that's in Arizona.
Is it? I thought it was in Roswell,
Nevada.
New Mexico.
No.
No.
It's in Nevada.
No. What's in Roswell, New Mexico then? Or am I just completely making
Where one of the most famous UFO crash incidents ever happened.
That's it. Anyways, that's enough UFO talk for this week. John, we've got a few topics to start us off today, so let's go off the top. The first one here, John, was something that you actually alerted me to. Apparently, there's some announcement coming from Lexington Sporting Club. What are you hearing, John?
Okay, I will make the statement of I do not know if I'm allowed to release the full information or not. There will be information coming out before the very end of the season about something that Lexington fans have been wanting to know about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as much as I can disclose without like breaking press relations.
Okay, that's a nice little juicy tip. I did a little asking around as well. And basically, I can just confirm what you're saying. There is something coming.
Exactly. Like it's, and here's the thing, people. I've had some people say it's like unfair, that sort of thing. There's this thing though, of like in press and journalism of like we're giving you this information so you can prep your stories, you can prep stuff. and you can prep your understanding or something of like how we're doing stuff
Mm-hmm.
with the catalyst that you're not just going to go on your podcast and blurt it out.
Yeah.
Like, we'll still control the release of the information. We're just giving you that heads up. That is why, people, when you see these breaking news stuff, these sports or these journalist stuff have like this whole article prepped, and it drops like the second that news drops. That's why they all of a sudden drop at once, because they are pre-prepped on it.
Yeah, and um, I would have people pay attention. Not next week. I think next week would be a little too early. So unless news breaks early, from what
I
I
think
saw, but I would expect maybe 2 weeks from now some big news
I
for
expect
Lexington clubs.
I expect them to make an announcement of the announcement.
Oh, like a teaser.
Like, they're gonna say like, hey, information's gonna be released on this day, type of thing, and we do know the day and time that
Mm-hmm.
they're planning to do this thing. But information's gonna be released on this day. It just as a heads up type of thing. That's about it. I could see them doing.
So make sure to come back to the Bluegrass Soccer Cast for more information on that when we get it and when we can release it. So, John, we'll move on here. Want to talk a little bit about the new logo for the Seattle Sounders. For those who didn't see it, the Sounders unveiled a new logo. It looks very similar to their old logo, if I'm being very honest, but it is a
They
little different.
minimalize it.
Yep, they did some small tweaks to it. Um, I'm trying to get this to open.
They basically minimalized it, and like, my thought is I do not like it with the brighter color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that's like a darker color scheme, or like a darker kind of granite
Mm-hmm.
look. So that's the thing. I'm not sure which is like actual. I will say, so here I found. So I found like with like the watermark or like the wording type stuff and other stuff they'll do. I do like these two alternates they've dropped with it. One
Ooh, I
is
haven't
like
seen the alternates.
one is an orca. Here, let me see if I'll send this in Discord.
Yeah, and I'll post them up here.
One is like an orca playing with a soccer ball, and one's like this rose
Mm-hmm.
thing. It looks good. Let's see
The
if it's
rose, you
sent
would typically
right.
think more of Portland, right? With the thorns
It's
and
a it's it might not be a rose, it's a flower of some sort. I just sent it
oh,
in Discord. Wait.
let's see.
But like, I'm okay. I liked it. I do. This is a case where I think the badge is not as um not really that tarnished with it, because
Mm-hmm.
the old one was a little too busy. Um, and I'm sending another one that I like the darker color scheme more of for
Yeah,
them.
I like the new logo. I was talking to in our Discord earlier, talking about how like I like the simplicity of it. It's nice and easy. It's clean. There's nothing too dramatic
So, like,
about it.
this one, I would for 100%. The one on the right that's darker and like teal, I would 100%
Hmm.
buy something like that.
Yeah,
The other one
I,
is okay. It's not out of this world, but it's okay. And I think my thing with badges is no MLS team is historic enough or has
yeah.
used a badge long enough to where it's like out of this world. Like, Juventus change
Hmm.
was like, Juventus had that badge for decades. Manchester City had that badge for decades, type of thing. the Seattle Sounders have only been in MLS since like 2008.
Yeah, not very
I
long
want
at
to
all.
say, yeah. So it's not, and granted, yes, they've been around as a USL team, and they had multiple different logos prior to that. And I'm talking like old USL.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The pre-Lou City days, even.
well, no, and this is the thing, people. The league does not recognize the current version, which started in 2010. They don't recognize anything prior to that, but the USL existed prior to that. There was things
Mm-hmm.
called the USL. They won't acknowledge it because they weren't running it or whatever, but they existed. They should acknowledge it, but they don't. Um, so all these things, but like the Orca, they have like some emerald green hat with that on there. That's good.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, overall, I kind of like the colors. Like they're just a slight variation. It's a more minimalist logo. I'm a big fan of minimalist logos. It's simple. If you know the Space Needle, you know its shape, you know the significance of it. You immediately know what city this is. I mean, the 1974 part, like, meh. You know, I'm
I'm
indifferent
fine.
on that part. But.
I like I like including I like including the year a team was founded on a badge.
I don't dislike it. It's just I can give or take. I kind of like that flower one too, though.
Yeah,
Whatever,
I
if
don't
it's
know what
rose or
that
whatever it is.
is or whatever, but like their old crest, it was just so
Mm-hmm.
busy.
Yep. And
Like
and that's what I like about this new one. It's much simpler.
like the old crest, like it's and get Sal Fanders would probably like it, but it has a shield badge in it, and it has another badge behind it, and it has script over top of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
very busy.
It almost got like a sash or something in it too. Like
Yeah,
it,
and
just a little too busy.
I am one when it comes to crests. I think everything should be inside of it. If
Agreed.
at most you can do like the Spanish thing with the crown on top, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. And you can kind of do the ribbon underneath, but the ribbon needs to be like tight underneath. I don't like an overlapping ribbon that pops out
Fully agree with you there.
over the top. But if it's underneath, as long as it's tightly underneath and it's not too big, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Well, and then the last thing I wanted to say about it, and I'll flip back to the first one that you sent here, John. I think this is exactly what their three kits is going to look like next year. You've got your green one, you've got this sea foam, this light teal one, and then a blue one potentially. So, or maybe like one of those is their fourth kit or something like that. You know, they have a white one or a black one that they also throw in. So, I like it, man. Good on Seattle. You know, I hope the fans there really like it and continue to buy in.
My thing, I don't know why they dropped it now.
Yeah, it is odd timing, right? Like, I have no idea where
See,
they're at in MLS standings, but
and that's my thing I want to do with, I want to say in general, I think a lot of stuff should be off season stuff
mm-hmm.
because so like signings, obviously you can have in season, that's one thing. Logo changes should be off season stuff. Um, and I think uniform releases that should all be off season unless there's
They currently sit.
some
Go for it. Sorry.
specific special thing happening, like 1000th game or something like that in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
the season. There shouldn't just be these random kit drops in the middle of the year, unless it's like a special thing or like we're gonna have like a special kit for this thing, or like it's those like Hispanic Heritage Month training stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Or
fine,
like the
but
Captain America ones that they've done.
yeah, that's fine. All the uniforms, the main uniforms that aren't specific, should all be dropped at once. They shouldn't be like this in season stuff, like Lex has done that itself, but like
Mm-hmm.
it should all just be upfront and at once. Here's everything.
Seattle currently sits third in the West, solidly in the playoffs. Most likely going to finish, top two or three out there. So again, just odd timing to drop it. It's not like they're well out of the playoffs or anything like that. So for those few folks that are interested, you know that Inter Miami play tonight in the Open Cup final. We are currently 14th in the East, but we're only 5 points out of ninth, so we still have a lot of time ish, and we can make this up. We can do it. And I heard that. I'm just choosing to ignore you.
Fake Miami.
Speaking of the Open Cup and Miami, tonight is the final. They will host the Houston Dynamo. I wanted to say Dash. That's the NWSL team. They host the Houston Dynamo. It should be a really good match. Houston has come in playing really, really well. But, come on. It's Miami. It's Busquets. It's Messi. What are we doing?
Messi might not be playing.
You shush over there.
Because last I saw, he was listed as questionable.
Well, it's all gamesmanship. He's playing so he can get his second trophy.
According to this was updated 46 seconds ago by the Athletic. Inter Miami versus Houston Dash live updates. Lionel Messi is not playing in the U.S. Open Cup final.
Well,
and Jordi Alba. Jordi Alba. You
shoot.
just got Busquets out there.
Come on, Kaminsky. I need Calendar to make all his saves tonight. But it's the celebration. I do kind of want to reflect back a little bit on the Open Cup this year, especially for Kentucky teams, right? It started with the Bowling Green Football Club. They made it into the second round of the opening stages of the U.S. Open Cup. They had a very tough opponent. They played Beeman United, which is now known as Tennessee Tempo. Hard fought match, one of the best matches I've ever seen Bowling Green play last fall. Unfortunately, they did lose that match. Beeman United, now Tennessee Tempo, made it all the way into the main bracket. So to get knocked out by a team of that caliber shows just the class of the Bowling Green organization and the talent that they can accumulate down there, or down here, I should say. Tempo made it all the way, like I said, to the opening round of the official opening round, where they have the semi-pro teams mixed in with the lower division pro teams. So it was good to see them make that run. They fell to who was that? Des Moines, the Des Moines Midwest Premier League team. I can't remember. No, not Midwest Premier League. USL2. I can't remember who that was. The Menace, Des Moines Menace, from Iowa. So great run for them last year for Tempo. Now they start this year on October. Where are my notes here? October the 1st at 5 p.m. on the road at Birmingham FC. Tennessee Tempo, of course, led by GIF, who's been a previous guest on our show. So make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go back and watch that interview that we had with him. So we wish Tempo the best of luck. It's the closest team for me right now. Until Lou City and Lexington join in. In the last competition, they actually started against each other, which was a downpour, hard-fought 1-0 victory for Lou City. John, were you at that game?
No. That was a midweek game.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go. I was planning to go. I hadn't bought tickets yet, and then I saw that it was a downpour.
Yeah.
And the game itself was delayed like 2 hours.
Yep.
And so, I live 2 hours from Louisville. And so Lex games are one thing because that's only an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they're typically weekend ones. But
yeah, no
midweek, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
That delay, the game ended at 11:30.
It was late.
Yeah.
Very late. But it was a great game. The first of the what is it? El Bluegrass Classico. We need a better name.
The Railbirds people and Lexington people want El Bluegrassico, which I'm on the side of not everything should be nicknamed after like El Clasico or the Classic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with it fits with the bluegrass theme there a little bit. But there's people who want to do like the Lou City route with Indy, and they just call it by like the interstate thing. I'm like,
That
the
was my
interstate
first
thing I
vote.
think is stupid. Interstate thing, I get it, but it sounds like so many college teams do
Yeah.
that, and it sounds college-esque. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound pro. And like, I think there's something you could do with bourbon more so,
Mm-hmm.
but so we'll have to see. And I think it should develop naturally, and we'll see what happens.
And I think some others had mentioned more of the like a Kentucky Derby. You can't call it the Kentucky Derby, right? Or just using more of the British pronunciation of that word and being like the Kentucky Derby.
Well, here's the thing. I want both teams to be able to monetize this.
Yeah.
And like make shirts, make that type of thing. So that's why they can't call it the Kentucky Derby, because that's to get an instant lawsuit and
Yeah.
cease and desist order from Churchill Downs. And people are like, well, then you just don't do it. It's like, then that's just an unofficial name. That's not an official name then. Yes, us fans can call that, but that doesn't mean anything. You're never going to hear the broadcast call it that.
No.
You're never going to see anything of that on a T-shirt. So what's the point?
At best, the announcers may go with the Bluegrass Classico, but that's it.
Yeah.
But with the victory, that sent Lou City on to Cincinnati to renew that rivalry, the Dirty City or Dirty River Derby, right? Between Lou City and Cincinnati. And that was another hard fought match, but that was during the spell in the early season where Lou City was really struggling to score. So Lou City fell in that one 1-0. I mean, considering how good Cincinnati has been this year, like that is a great turnaround or turnout for them. I would like to have seen them, make an equalizer and see what would have happened in overtime or extra time, I should say. But it was an entertaining game to watch. Frustrating that it didn't fall for Lou City, but FC Cincinnati made a heck of a run to the semifinals. Yeah, where they hosted Inter Miami. But so Open Cup, it ends tonight for the 2023 Cup, but the 2024 Cup starts up very, very soon. Again, the closest team for me down here and the closest team to the Bluegrass that is playing currently is the Tennessee Tempo, and they kick off down in Birmingham against Birmingham FC on October the 1st at 5 p.m.
Yeah, it's been going on. I think technically they're on like
The second round, I
the
think.
second round of the semi-pro amateur stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that was another.
So
I don't remember if I said this or not, but no teams from Kentucky, none of the semi-pro teams have joined for this part of the tournament. So BGFC, Pumas, all those other amateur teams that play in the OVPL and stuff like that. Like none of them applied or got accepted. So Tempo is all we got for now. So best of luck to Tempo and everyone else in the tournament. And best believing, I'm looking forward to Louisville and Lexington coming back in March or so to see what could happen. But as that journey is coming to an end and a start almost at the exact same time, two journeys did come to an end this past week or weekend. The U.S. women's national team said farewell to Julie Ertz and Megan Rapinoe in a set of matches with South Africa. Both Ertz and Rapinoe were honored in the September friendlies. Ertz getting the first of the friendlies, Rapinoe getting the second one as like their final match ever. Just for context, so people are aware of how long these players have been with the women's team. Julie Ertz has played 123 matches. while Rapinoe has played 203 matches. So a very long time with the women's national team. Both players, of course, John, as you know, leave behind a remarkable legacy of championships on the field, but off the field even more so, in leading some of the charges to make sure that the women's national team is getting equal revenue share to the men's. Of course, you know,
They're
they're
getting equal pay.
equal
It's
pay.
just
Yes,
everything is equal. Everything is equal.
yes, as it
Like,
should be.
yeah.
Uh, both of them were on the 2 in a row World Cups that the USWNT won. Um, you know, Rapinoe had that world class goal in the the semifinal in the last one that they won. So a great player. But you know, while both players are leaving, there were two matches that happened. Uh, both of them were victories by the women's team, the women's national team. One of them was 3-0. The other was 2-0. Which it's an interesting matchup here in Kentucky, right? Because when you think of South Africa, who do you think of?
Themby.
That's right, from Racing Louisville. She played pretty well for South Africa, but Trendy Rodman and a lot of the other younger players for the U.S. women's team played better. Um, so it was a great run, John. From kind of what you saw, or did you have a chance to check out either of the matches, and you know any kind of thoughts on
I've
Ertz and Rapinoe?
I checked out the highlights and stuff, but the thing of is it's good that they got their send offs and each had their own game send off and that sort of thing. My big thing is one that these are victories. Like South Africa is not a pushover of a team.
Mm-mm.
Um, they looked a lot better compared to the World Cup overall in these. Yes, they're friendly, so it's really hard to judge. But I think with Ertz and Rapinoe leaving, it's good because it's just time to move on.
Right.
Ertz played really like Ertz is going to be more missed as of right now than Rapinoe because Rapinoe's role had basically been pushed down to a sparing bench player, where Ertz was consistently a starter in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So Ertz is definitely gonna I feel be missed more so late as of going forward in the near future, but it's good that they got proper send offs the way they did and stuff like that. I'm curious to see how they will stick around if they do or not.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be continuing to stay involved, right? Like especially Ertz. Like I could see
Well,
her
you
staying
have
in
like
coaching.
Ertz, I could see coaching. I don't think Rapinoe is going to disappear.
No, no.
So I'm curious, Rapinoe especially. I'm curious what she's going to do next.
I really feel like
Ertz,
her
I could
career.
see. Ertz has young kids, or
Mm,
at least a young kid. So I could see Ertz like going kind of in the background for a little bit until the kid's a little older.
yeah. And Rapino, I could see her journey just really beginning off the field, continuing to advocate for women's sports and stuff like that, but especially for women's soccer. Like she was a big part of that push to get pay to match the men's team. So I could see her easily continuing that kind of work moving forward. But yeah, so overall, two nice wins for Team USA, and they will. I don't think they have any more matches in October, but I could be wrong. I know the men do. We'll have to look that up, and we'll talk about that before they play. But John, with that out of the way, we will now move to my favorite part, where we always talk about all our favorite teams and how they're going to do and what they've been doing. The bottom line. So, John, this week we have just a few matchups, just the main three that we continually have. We've got Lou City, who is playing at New Mexico United. And let's start there. So, John, as you're kind of looking at these two teams in the standings, In the Eastern Conference, currently, Lou City still sitting fifth, behind Memphis on goal differential. Meanwhile, you've got New Mexico, which is sitting in 11th. And not, well, they could still make the playoffs, but mathematically getting close to, if not already eliminated, being that they are 4 points out. So not completely out of the question, but not likely that they make it. John, before I dive too much into this, how do you see this one playing out?
It's going to be interesting, particularly because, like you said, New Mexico's kind of out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. They're not directly out of it yet. Blue City needs points for home playoffs, so I'm very curious to how they're in the playoffs right now. So I'm curious to how much Coach Cruz goes into the playoffs. Like, how much is he like? Is home field advantage really that important for what statistically could be one game?
Mm-hmm.
Or is being healthy, being all rested and proper and ready to go in the playoffs more important?
Yeah, and I really want them to get a home game. And they've got.
Oh, so do I, because I would go with that.
Yeah.
Go to that.
They've got two good chances, right? You've got New Mexico United and Hartford, and then you've got your last game of the season with Tampa. So, like, there's a chance you still could play this game out and see what happens. If New Mexico comes out on fire and goes up 1 or 2-0 in the first half, yeah, I could easily agree with you. I think Coach Cruz could just play the game out and take the result as it is, right? Because even with a loss and an Indy win, they're still going to be locked into fifth, so they wouldn't fall in that one.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting.
But
I'm very curious about that and stuff because what is more important, playoffs or the home field advantage? And I think it all will depend on how the first half of each game goes.
yeah.
So if New Mexico gets up on this and they go up like 2-0, I don't see like Cruz going out as like, all right, we need to try to like scrap a draw out of this or scrap a win out. But I don't see them just like just kind of existing for these next three matches. Like, oh, it doesn't matter, we're in the playoffs regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing.
Louisville's next opponent next weekend, Hartford Athletic, currently down 2-0 to Tampa Bay. So if Hartford is kind of folding their tents, I could easily see that next game, even playing reserves, maybe Lou City would have an opportunity to sneak a win and get some of the starters some more time to rest. But when you're looking at New Mexico, their best goal scorer is Morno, Amando Morno. Sorry, my friend. With 9 goals on 30 appearances so far this season. So not a whole lot. I mean, that is tied with Wilson Harris for Lou City for goals. And when you're looking at head-to-head, these two teams have only played once before, and that was in 2021. Lou City had an easy 3-1 victory. Total team goals, 43 for New Mexico, only 38 for Lou City, giving the goal differential advantage to Lou City, actually, because New Mexico has a -4 goal differential with Lou City sitting at 0. The assists are basically even, 26 for New Mexico, 27 for Lou City. And then goals against, 47 for New Mexico, but only 38 for Lou City. So New Mexico scores more, but they give up more, and Lou City does about the same numbers they give up that also go in the net. So I think it's going to be an interesting match. I fully expect, and here we go again, right? Like Jimmie wildly predicting games. Sorry for last weekend, everybody. Uh, but I really do think Lou City.
Say the opposite of what you're thinking.
Lou City is going to lose. They're going to get beat
There we
17-0.
There we go.
No, just kidding.
Thank me later, Lou City fans. Unless he walks it back and decides to curse you again.
Hey, look, Lou City should win this game. They need the points. I understand maybe for resting players. Honestly, completely honest, my real pick is a 1-1 draw. That just seems to be pretty indicative for how the season has gone. It'll be a frustration point for me next week because I do think that Lou City should be the better team in this one and they should get the victory, but I will officially go for that 1-1 draw. What say you, John?
I'm thinking like 2-1 for Lou City because they should win it. But the question is, what will the first half do? How will they handle it? And this game is going to let me know how Cruz is handling the rest of the season.
Yep.
Now that they've clinched.
Absolutely. So, John, with that, we'll stick in Lou City and we'll talk about Racing Louisville, who have a match on the road at the Chicago Red Stars. I kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but to fully kind of dive into it this week, when you look at the standings, Racing is still just right on the outside of the playoffs looking in. They have 24 points. That's currently good enough for ninth. But sixth place only has 26 points, so they're only 2 points out. That's where that loss last week or a couple of weeks ago to the Dash really hurt Racing Louisville's playoff chances. But Chicago is at the very bottom of the table. They do have 21 points, so it's not a complete blowout, right? Like it's not going to be an easy victory for Racing, especially going on the road. But I think this should be a good game between the two teams. If Racing wants to make the playoffs, they have to win. But John, how do you see this one playing out?
Racing desperately needs this one. They need it. They have to get it for the playoffs. They should, in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see, though. Are the Red Stars they're kind of basically out of it? They're not fully. There still is chance they can still kind of get their way, but they have to have a lot go their way for it to happen. So I'm curious to how Red Star will come into this. Are they wanting to play spoiler? Are they wanting to push for playoffs? Or are they just kind of be like, well, we might try some stuff and see how it goes. We might try playing younger people, getting them more experience type of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to be curious about.
Well, the Red Stars are on a bit of a tear here. The last 3 games, they're undefeated, 1 win, 2 draws. And that's the first time since last season they've had such a successful run. As I mentioned, nope, never mind. On the other hand, Racing is coming in with shutouts being the key for their victories because the last 3 wins that they've had all came with shutouts. So Katie Lund and the defense is going to have to really step up against Chicago to continue that streak. In the matchup so far this season, Chicago has not scored against Racing Louisville. In addition to 2 other shutouts in prior seasons for a total of 5 against the Red Stars in just the short amount of time that Racing has been an organization. It seems to point to me that this should be another victory. I'm going to go 1-0 Racing Louisville. John, what say you?
And I'm also going 1-0 because Lund is still a good quality keeper. But the attack is going to be questionable. I can also see this being a 0-0 draw.
Oh.
So I'm very curious to see if the attack will actually appear for racing in this match or not.
Yeah. And like I know Chicago's been playing better. They've gotten a result in 4 out of the last 5. But they have a negative 17 goal differential, man. Like that means you're losing a lot of these games 1-0. I mean, they do have 10 losses on the season, which is quite a few. Um, especially when you're looking at racing, they only have 5. Um, I agree with you. I don't know what kind of offense is going to show up for racing. If it's the same offense that played against Portland when we were there, heck yeah, they're going to win 2, maybe even 3-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the woes have carried forward the last couple of matches, so hopefully Coach Kim can get the team going back in the right direction. But John, with that, we'll move on over to Lexington Sporting Club as I clicked off of my tab. Here we go. They head up to Madison to take on Forward Madison FC. John, as you're looking at this matchup, what are you looking forward to the most in it?
So this matchup I'm very curious about because by the way luck has gone for Lexington, outside of the 2 teams from Tennessee, they have drawn basically every series with every other team,
Mm-hmm.
which means they would be due for a win against Madison. And Madison has been struggling to score, especially of late. They only have 5 goals in their last 5, with 2 of those being against the Kickers, which is not that great of a showing.
Mm-mm.
Now they're still this really good defensive team. They like their last game they lost against Charlotte. They tied Knoxville. They tied NoCo 0-0. So I'm very curious to how this will play out. I don't see it playing out like the last time Lexington went into Madison with them just scoring 3 goals in the first half.
Yeah, that would be a surprise.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm curious to how they bounce back from the Red Wolves game, and I'm curious what version of Madison we will get. Is it the really good defensive team that's really promising and stuff? Because Madison is the definition of a yo-yo club in this league,
Mm-hmm.
where they are a playoff caliber team. They truly could challenge and stuff, but they just put in performances that just aren't. It's like they almost meet the level of their competition.
Well,
So I'm very curious to how they meet Lexington in this one.
remind me, John. Top 6 make it into the playoffs, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and
There's
Madison is 6.
yeah, but they are 6 right now.
Mm-hmm.
But they are okay. So they are safe for sure, but Tormenta is playing Kickers, and Tormenta is 4 points out.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be very interesting. And Knox will be debatable.
Knox
They
is 6
need
out.
Madison needs a win
Yeah.
to like not put themselves on a like very tight last 2 matches that are against NoCo and Omaha. So I'm expecting Madison to try at all ends get a win out of this one. I'm curious to how, if they do though, are they going to meet Lexington where they're at and possibly cost themselves playoffs?
Yeah, I really have gone back and forth on looking at how this one could turn out, right? Like there's a large part of me that truly thinks Madison is going to win this game 3, maybe even 4-0. Because they need to. They need the points. They need to elevate their position to make sure they do make it in. They are a superior side right now to Lexington. And if Nacho and the coaching staff continue to have issues like they had against that disgraceful loss to the Red Wolves last week, I am really going to have questions this offseason about them. So it's kind of one of those things, right? Like both teams need to win this one to kind of prove like either yes, we belong in the playoffs for Madison, or Lexington to say no, we are not that god awful team that showed up against Chattanooga. Um, I just think Madison's got too much going for them. I think their form hasn't been great. I mean, 3 positive results out of 5, very mid. Um, they have been, as John pointed out, they've been very up and down all year. So in the end, I'm going to go a 1-0 victory for Madison, but I think it could lean more on the runaway train side for Madison than Lexington getting a victory, in my opinion.
I honestly not really sure which way to go. I think it's gonna be like a 1-1 draw, really.
Yeah, and for Lexington, with only 3 matches left, getting points, getting experience for these guys, or I'm sorry, getting experience should trump getting points for the team. So even if they lose 2-0, now if you get embarrassed, that's one thing. But even if you lose 2-0 and you play a tightly contested game, there can still be some moral victories to take out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially then knowing they play North Carolina after that, their last home game, and then they end the season on the road at that other disgraceful team, the Greenville Triumph. Um, so I think this is a good test for the younger guys in Lexington. We'll just kind of have to see how it turns out. But John, with all of that out of the way, we'll now pivot to kind of updating our weekly college rankings and stuff like that. If I gotta refresh my page here.
I gotta check that because in all honesty, guys, I've been swamped at work. I've been dealing with a sickness and stuff, so the glove and that type of stuff is not updated. Every other day I plan to do it, and something comes up. We have this big event coming at the Y this week, so I'm doing a lot of planning with that and stuff. It's going to be updated by the time we release it later this week. I'll have a lot more time tomorrow for sure. It's just they're not up to date right now.
Yeah.
And just got swamped with stuff, y'all.
No problem at all, my friend. And just kind of breaking the fourth wall here. Like we do split a lot of these tasks. So while John is breaking down the boot and the glove, I'm looking at overall records and getting things together for the College Cup. So it's a full team effort over here, man. On the Bluegrass Soccer Cast, we're all rowing together. I can assure you. But I'll give an update on the Bluegrass Soccer Cast College Cup. So this was updated as of September 25th. We have a 3-way tie for 5th place, but the tiebreaker going to Northern Kentucky women because they have 2 in-state wins and 1 in-state draw for an additional 7 points. So that gives them the boost over the U of L men and Center College women, who both have less than 7 interstate points. We have a definitive 4-1, though. 4th place, we have the University of the Cumberland's women's teams, who is undefeated on the season, 7 wins, 2 draws. One of those victories was against a interstate opponent, giving them 25 total points. 3rd place, the University of Kentucky women's team, also undefeated, 6 wins, 4 ties, 0 losses, with 2 interstate victories for 27 points. And then they're starting to get a little bit of separation here. Number 2, Campbellsville men, 8 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie, with a 2 wins, 1 loss record in the state, give them 31 points. So they are really pushing for the number 1 spot. But for the second week in a row, Union College, who is undefeated in all sense of that word at 8 wins, 0 losses, 0 ties, 3-0 against in-state opponents for a total of 33 points. So again, congratulations to Union College men, Campbellsville men, University of Kentucky women, University of the Cumberlands women, and Northern Kentucky women for making this week's top 5. And again, there are some teams. I won't name them, but you know who you are. There are 4 that are still sitting on 0 points. One of them because I don't know if your team actually exists anymore. The other 3 have had very, very challenging seasons so far. I'll leave it at that. But and then we will stick to all of our social media for updates on the Golden Boot and the Golden Glove as we get that stuff completed throughout the rest of this week. But John, anything else, my friend, you want to talk about before we wrap up the show today?
Well, it appears some people got calls from the ticketing office at Lex, so and the news has been broken by other people.
Oh,
in a Facebook group chat. So,
breaking
basically,
news.
there's going to be a press conference where they announce the final plans on October 10th. That's going to be at noon. That's a Tuesday. And they'll also be announcing season ticket stuff. It's going to be at Athens Boonesboro. I basically knew that forever. They've been doing construction there. And as well, the ticketing options they're going to be there probably come June or July. They'll be playing in the new stadium.
Wow.
So the tickets are going to be kind of interesting how season tickets work. But that means by the time the Super League kicks off, they will be in their permanent stadium.
Wow. So they're really throwing this stadium up then.
Well, it's a 6,000 seater stadium.
Yeah.
And like in the case of Lou, like theirs got delayed more by pandemic and stuff. Those type stadiums aren't that hard to build.
So is it going to look more like Chattanooga?
And they've been building it.
Oh,
they've
have
been
they?
building it. Yeah, they've been doing, and like the groundwork is laid. That's the stuff that takes forever. And this is why I thought that it was going to go there anyways, because they got all these fields together and they like announced it. But they were still doing construction on this hill, where the hill was where the stadium was supposed to go. I was like, there's no way they're still doing stuff if it's not going there. So we'll see how it goes and stuff. But that's a year, over a year and a half. That's not that hard. My guess I don't know how seats will be, if they're like Lou City seats and stuff, but those types of things are not that hard to build.
Yeah.
It's especially if you look at Lou in a sense, they're really not that hard to build. You're building alcoves and stuff. The really hard stuff that takes forever to build is like the back cave stuff, back cave stuff, and all that type of thing, locker rooms and all that sorts. But building like concessions aren't hard. Stands really aren't that hard if you really think about it. It's the lower infrastructure that's really hard to takes the time to build.
Yeah. So John, as you're thinking about what the new stadium could look like and what it could have in it, what are you hoping for? Are there any things on your bucket list that you want to be like, I want it to have this, and this feature, or to have a roof or anything?
I am curious to what they should be a roof over the stands at least. I believe that's a thing that all stadiums should have. I'm very curious to how much they can keep fans in the loop. So I'm curious if I will get messages about how they want the supporter group or how we want the supporter section to be, where's that type of thing is going to go. So I just want a stadium that has well placed out concessions, well placed out bathrooms, good traffic flow sort of thing. That's all I'm not like this huge. I personally don't need like the Comerica Park where the Tigers play has like a baseball Ferris wheel and all this type stuff. I don't need all that.
That's what I
I just need a.
like, though. That's what I'm here for. So I have a
It's
list.
overdone. I'm fine with like if they do want to do a beer garden, like a little big like an area family zone like they have sort of at Lou City games. I'm fine with that, but it's not what I need type thing.
So
Or I fully expect either.
here are some things that like I would love to see. Do I think any of these are going to happen in the stadium? No, uh, but I do think here's the things that I want to see in this stadium. One, I totally agree with you. I think we need a roof, like some kind of covering. One, it helps with noise. Two, it helps protect fans from inclement weather, and especially in the spring with the rain, the heat, and the direct sunlight in the summer. Like all of that are just things that really help elevate the fan experience. Two, I agree with exactly with what you said, John. Like it needs to be the concourses need to be wide enough so people can get around, have plenty of space to stand in line for concessions, plenty of bathrooms, all of those kind of things. I agree. I think that is important infrastructure to any new stadium project. That's actually one of the reasons the Tennessee Titans are rebuilding a stadium in Nashville. Is because one, they wanted a roof, and two, they needed to update the infrastructure so bad, because when they built the stadium in the late 90s, it just can't hold today's data and today's electrical needs and plumbing needs. So all of those things I expect to be top quality. Second or third on my list here. Every stadium's got some kind of like a chair rail or like a standing rail, right? So what if you took the design from like Keeneland of like the rails that they have, the kind of the bent with the thick white bar at the top, and did something like that all the way across uh, the supporter section or the railbird section, something like that. I think that would look really cool, and that would definitely be unique. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, but see, my thing is I don't want them as a person who's moved into Lexington, I don't like going full in on the horse stuff.
Mm.
And so I don't want that. Maybe around the bottom of the stadium, like the last
Oh,
row before
okay.
type
I
thing,
can
you could
see
do
that.
something like that. But doing it in the entire like supporter zone, I think would just look stupid.
Good chance. Good chance it could kind of throw off the vibe and the look of it. Yeah. Um, four on my list. I have a whole top five, and I didn't even know it. Fourth on the list. This is crazy. Hedges. Put some hedges around the pitch. I think that would look so nice, especially if they do what you just suggested, which is putting that rail all the way around. That would be really, really cool. And lastly, number five goes back to a point you kind of made, but I want to expand on it. A in-house brewery or distillery, something in the stadium that people can come to year round and just overlook the pitch, have a beautiful, restaurant and viewing room, a patio, beer garden kind of thing, like you were suggesting, John. Just something that kind of sits right above the pitch and just overlooks the stadium. I think would be chef's kiss, beautiful. Yep.
Yeah,
uh,
that's like I said, I am not. I'm okay. I'm all on upgraded facilities, proper facilities type things. I am not the big old. I need this in the stadium. I expect this in the stadium. Yeah, as long as they keep it clean, they have good food, type of thing. It's well spaced out. There's no like stupid, um, not enough bathrooms or any of that like stupid traffic flow stuff. I'm not that. I'm not someone who you pull into the stadium with everything else. I'm someone who's at the stadium to watch the thing. I would like all that stuff to look good, but it's not like a must-have for me or a need for me to have. It's cool, but it's like I'd rather just have the stadium with the set stuff
So
that like people are gonna experience in and day out.
would you take a stadium like what the Red Wolves have?
I've never
Very,
been there.
I've never been there either, but it looks insanely rudimentary and very basic. Pretty much how their whole club operates.
I've seen that. See, here's the thing. I would take something that like Lou City has, but it doesn't have to be like as aesthetically type thing.
Not as big.
Yeah, like Lou City's thing is very much like the outside has an aesthetic to it, but the inside is very bland, and that's not a bad thing. But if they literally did like what Lou City does, I think they'd be fine.
But all right, everyone. With that, we will wrap up today's show. If you enjoy the show, we always appreciate anybody's who's willing to support the show. We do have a Buy Us Coffee account. You can scan the QR code on the screen here, or it lives right above my shoulder most of the time, as long as I remember to turn on the button. Our show is always going to be free. All our content is going to be free, but to those who have donated and those who are thinking about donating, we always appreciate the donation. So, if you also enjoy our content and you want to follow us along, make sure to follow us along on all of our great social media platforms. All of those handles are at BG Soccercast. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Apparently, Threads is coming back to life. I don't know. I've gotten several Threads notifications over the last day or so. So maybe our Threads will come back to life as well. But if you
Houston up 1-0.
Who scored for them? Dorsey?
I don't know.
If you enjoy listening to this podcast and listening to me bemoan about Inter Miami, make sure you listen to us on all of our awesome podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, YouTube, Apple, and so many others. We appreciate all of you all who like, follow, subscribe, share, and do all of that to help grow our show. But in the end, I'm Jimmy, that's John, and we will see you on the next one.